Welcome to the first episode of Living the North Jersey Lifestyle. Thank you for joining me on this journey. I'm Betti Russo, your local real estate expert. Whether you're buying, selling, or just curious about the market and your community, I understand how important it is to make informed decisions. Like you, I want to see people thrive in this incredible area, and I am here to offer insights and advice that will help you do just that. Each month, we'll cover 3 segments. Market Watch, where we discuss the latest real estate trends, tips and tools for buyers and sellers with actionable advice to succeed in today's market, and a community spotlight where we highlight North Jersey neighborhoods, businesses, and more. With over 15 years of experience, I've helped clients in and around North Jersey buy and sell real estate. I'm excited to share valuable information with you in every episode of our show, whether you're local or tuning in from anywhere. Let's get started. So let's talk about something I get asked all the time. How can I sell my house fast this spring in and around Bergen County, New Jersey? Well, never mind the fact that we're in a strong seller's market with low inventory. Buyers still have a preference. If you're nodding along right now, this next part is for you. Because whether you're on the fence or already planning to list, spring is a prime window to sell, but only if you're prepared. Let me walk you through the 4 essential things every seller should be doing right now to set themselves up for a faster, smoother, and more profitable sale. Let's dive into the 4 steps to sell your house fast this spring in and around Bergen County, New Jersey. Number 1, prepare your home like a pro. First impressions are everything. I once worked with a client, we'll call her Louise, who is eager to sell. She did most of the prep, but skipped over a few details inside the home against my recommendation. Let's face it, I can't force you to do these tasks. Things like chipped paint, heavy window treatments, and outdated lighting. Buyers walked in and said, it just doesn't feel move-in ready. The result, the home sat on the market longer than expected, and she had to drop the price. So before you list, declutter, deep clean, add fresh paint, and minor updates. Most buyers in North Jersey are savvy and expect move-in ready. The better you prep, the faster and higher you sell. Step 2, price strategically for today's market. This is where a lot of homeowners go wrong. Just because your neighbor sold for $800,000 does not mean your home will too. Every property is unique. Overpricing can scare buyers off. Underpricing, you leave money behind. So instead, let's tackle this together. I'll help you review comps, track buyer demand, and set a price that draws attention and drives offers. Step number 3, list at the right time and take action. The best time to sell is now. I can't tell you how many times I hear, well, I'm waiting for the perfect moment, but perfect does not exist. Smart timing does. Spring in Bergen County is prime time. Inventory is still low, buyers are out, and there's not much competition to speak of. If you want to stand out, don't wait. Even if you're not listing tomorrow, start planning now. Step number 4, manage showings like a pro. Listing your home isn't the finish line, it's just the beginning. Once it's live, you've got to keep the momentum going. That means keeping it show ready, respond to feedback, and be flexible with scheduling. Here's the mistake many sellers make, assuming the first offer is the best one. Sometimes it is, but sometimes a little patience and feedback tweaking can bring a better offer just days later. Stay engaged, stay alert, and don't settle too soon. Here's the bonus I promised, and it's a tip I always share with my clients. Do a pre-listing inspection. This simple step can help you spot hidden issues before buyers do. It can help you fix small problems on your terms, and it can help you stay in control during negotiations. Buyers will pretty much always do an inspection, and if they find something, it becomes a negotiation tactic. But if you handle it first, you hold the leverage. This is one of the best ways to protect your bottom line and sell with confidence. If you're in Bergen County or anywhere nearby and you're wondering what your next move should be, just know you don't have to figure this all out on your own. So if you're focused on the North Jersey real estate market this spring, you may have heard it's quite different from the rest of the Garden State and much of the country for that matter. Today, I'm highlighting the key differences and similarities you need to know. Statewide, we've been hearing how elevated interest rates are slowing down home sales across New Jersey. We've seen a year-to-date decrease of about 4% in contract sales for the entire state. But what does this mean for you as a buyer or a seller? Well, let's zoom in on Bergen County, a key part of the North Jersey market. Interestingly, Bergen County has seen a more significant decrease of 5% in contract sales thus far in 2025. For those of you looking to buy or sell in this area, this suggests that the slowdown in sales might be a bit more noticeable here than in other parts of the state. When it comes to the number of homes available, the picture in North Jersey looks quite different from the statewide trend. Across New Jersey, available inventory is up 9% compared to last year. However, Bergen County has actually seen a 10% decrease in inventory during the same period. For buyers in Bergen County, this means fewer homes to choose from, which can lead to increased competition. Sellers, this can work in your favor. If your home is priced right, you may face less competition. Low inventory is on your side, but overpricing is never a good idea. Now, let's talk about how quickly homes are selling, which we measure using months' supply of inventory. The statewide average is around 2.2 months, meaning that homes on average are selling within that time frame. In Bergen County, the overall month supply is slightly lower at 2, which is very similar, but this indicates that homes are selling a bit faster here compared to the rest of New Jersey. It's important to note that this speed can vary widely depending on price range. For example, homes priced between $600,000 and $1 million are selling in just about 1.5 months, indicating high demand in that price range. On the flip side, homes over $2.5 million are moving much more slowly with a much higher supply at 14 months. If you're looking in that ultra luxury market, you may have some extra time to make your decision. So what about prices? In Bergen County, homes priced below $2.5 million are expected to increase by 4% this year, which aligns with the statewide forecast. For example, if your home is worth $700,000 today, it could be worth nearly $730,000 by the end of the year. But there's a notable difference at the higher end. While most parts of New Jersey are seeing continued appreciation in luxury homes, Bergen County's higher end market is expected to see a decrease of about 5%. For homeowners or buyers in that luxury price range, this represents a correction in the market. It's a tale of two markets within Bergen County, growth in most segments, but a bit of a slowdown at the top. Like the rest of New Jersey, North Jersey is also expected to benefit from the gradual decline in mortgage rates forecasted for 2025. This can mean more purchasing power for buyers, but that might not be enough to overcome the limited inventory. For sellers, especially those in competitive price ranges, strategic pricing will be essential to navigate this dynamic market. If you're active in the North Jersey real estate market, understanding these nuances will be crucial for making informed decisions this spring. Whether you're buying or selling, the current market dynamics offer challenges and opportunities, and it's important to be prepared for both. And now I'm here with Jackie from Jackie's Breads and Bakes in Oakland, New Jersey. So excited to have Jackie here today. Jackie, let's get right into it.
Sounds good.
Your business, Jackie's Breads and Bakes, started at an interesting time. So let's go back to when you first started baking in 2020. What was it like for you, that incredible smell of fresh bread throughout the house and just that excitement of starting something new?
So at that time, it was I was a stay-at-home mom with two little guys. At the time, they were a toddler and a newborn, and it was rough because we were all home. It was the pandemic, and we were struggling to find things to fill our time. And so I had always enjoyed baking, but my husband and I decided to challenge each other with different baking contests, I guess you could say. And he had said he wanted to bake a loaf of bread, and everybody was doing it. It was all over social media. And so I let him do that, bake a loaf of bread. And it was not very good. So I decided, or he told me that if I thought that I could do it better, then I should do it. So I baked a loaf of bread, and it came out pretty good.
First try?
First try, yes.
Awesome.
And I had baked bread previously, but many, many years ago. And again, being home during a pandemic and with two little guys, it was really hard to kind of find that time to do those things. But as time went on, I found myself having a little bit more free time in the kitchen as my son slept longer for naps and my daughter was entertaining herself. And so I started baking more frequently. And I kind of got bored, I guess you could say, of baking the same things over and over, and I wanted a challenge. And I had always felt very intimidated by sourdough, so I kind of pushed it aside for a while. But when you're baking really yummy bread using yeast, you're like, I want to do more, and I want to make something really delicious.
Right.
And that's when sourdough
It was a sourdough craze. It kind of started, right, at that time? Because in the past, I was like, I really, of course I knew what sourdough bread was, but it wasn't really popular. Now it's I see it everywhere.
Yes.
But is that kind of what happened to you? You saw, this...
Somewhat, yes. So like I said, I was very intimidated by it. I saw it and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm already taking care of two little kids. I can't take care of a starter and have to feed something else every day.
Oh my gosh, which we're going to get into. The first time I spoke to you, I was like, what is that?
Right. So then, like I said, I got bored of baking the same kind of things every day. And bread is something that just is so warm and comforting, and everybody likes bread. Whether you can eat bread or not, you still find ways to eat bread. and so I decided to jump into the sourdough thing and just get my feet wet, and it really worked out well for me.
Awesome. I love it. So Jackie, tell me, what was the first experience for you making the starter? You mentioned the starter, and I'm like, what in the world is that? Now I know what it is, but I don't think everybody knows what really goes into sourdough, making sourdough. So what was it like for you and that fermentation process? Tell us about that.
So it's interesting because it actually took me 2 tries to make a successful starter, and I started mine from scratch. The first time I wasn't giving my starter enough air, but I didn't know that at the time.
Okay.
So I had followed all of the directions on a website that was how to make your own starter from scratch. And I was just like, why is this not working? I'm doing all of the steps, I'm doing it. So I scratched my first starter and I said, okay, that didn't work.
You killed them.
I did, I killed it, I threw it in the garbage, and I said, I'm gonna give this one more try, and if it doesn't work, then it's not for me. And of course I could have gotten starter from almost anybody who has sourdough starter, because that's one of the beautiful things about sourdough is you can gift a loaf of bread or you can gift a part of your starter and then allow somebody else to continue baking bread with a piece of something that you've also created.
But I can only imagine that knowing you, would have wanted to create your own starter.
Yes, it was because for me, that was the challenge, was I want to do all of this from scratch. So I gave it a second go, and it takes about 14 days to establish a successful starter. And it requires a lot of measuring and time and patience, and it's a very scientific process. And I personally am not a very proficient science type person.
You're not a scientist.
Exactly. So I was just like, all right, let's do this. Let's try it. Let's see what's going to happen here. And so I got about 7 days in, and I was just like, it's doing the things it's supposed to do, but something isn't clicking, like something's not right. So I was just about to scratch it, and it happened to be my daughter's birthday, and I was just like, whatever, I'm just gonna leave it on the countertop, and I'm gonna take the top off the starter. And so I took the top off of the mason jar that it was in, and I went outside with my family. We celebrated my daughter's birthday. I come back inside later that day, and all of a sudden, this starter had blown up and was just like all over the countertop, and I was just like, well, that's what I've been waiting for.
Exactly.
And it turned out I was suffocating my starter because I wasn't leaving enough air. And so it wasn't getting the proper fermentation because it wasn't getting air, which is a very important part of your sourdough being able to grow, or your starter being able to grow, is having air and access to air. And so once I figured out that that was the problem, I kind of reapproached the whole thing, and I have not had a single problem with it since.
Okay, so for people that don't know exactly what is going on with sourdough and the starter and the air and the fermentation, let's just make it clear. This is a live
Yes.
being.
It's a culture, yes. It's a sourdough culture. And so what that means is you're essentially growing bacteria, and it needs feeding, water, it needs, proper ventilation, and all of these different aspects to really make it survive.
Okay. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think once you use a lot of your starter, you keep some of it on the side
Yes.
to continue adding to it and to keep it growing and keeping it alive, right?
Yes. So you, what you do is you feed your starter. And for me, I just use basic all-purpose flour and RO water, which is what I have in my house. And you feed the starter equal parts of the water and the flour, the food. And when you mix it all up, then what happens is the yeast and the bacteria that's inside of your starter will then eat it up. And what you're seeing is when it grows, when your starter kind of like grows in the jar, you're seeing the digestion process.
Oh my gosh.
So you're seeing, you see bubbles in your starter, and that's what makes you know you have a very healthy, happy starter, are these bubbles that are all in throughout the jar. And those bubbles are essentially yeast farts.
Oh my goodness.
So your yeast is eating and drinking, it's eating the flour and the water, and it's creating, these pockets of air and that growth, and that's what you want. You want to use that product to make this delicious bread.
There are so many health benefits
Yes.
to eating sourdough bread as opposed to regular bread. I know that people that have gut issues sometimes have an issue with too much gluten. When you eat sourdough, you don't have those same kind of problems. And
Right.
besides the fact that it's gut friendly, it's also healthy.
Yes.
So explain that. Explain that to me.
Sure. So what you're getting with the fermentation process is in fermentation, it's breaking down the complex carbohydrates and the gluten that you find in flour and bread and those products. So what's happening is the fermentation process, all of that is being, digested by these yeast, and it's breaking down those things that people have a hard time digesting. So when you say I'm gluten intolerant, regular bread hasn't gone through a fermentation process. You're using a commercial yeast to expedite the process, and so you're missing out on that crucial portion of the fermentation that's going to remove those things from your bread. And so what that does is if you have a gluten intolerance or a sensitivity, you can essentially eat sourdough bread and not have as big of an issue because the gluten has been broken down. And so your body can digest it more easily because that gluten isn't as prominent as it would be in, let's say, Wonder Bread.
Okay. I just want to make it clear also
Sure.
that is not meant to be for people that have an allergy to gluten to go ahead and start having sourdough bread. We're talking
Right.
intolerances versus allergies.
Yes.
It's a very big difference, right?
Right. Yes. So people who are allergic to wheat or allergic to gluten should not eat sourdough bread, and unless you have the okay from your doctor, if you're seeing a GI specialist or an internal medicine doctor, you should make sure you have that clearance from your doctor before you go and say, you know what, I'm going to try sourdough.
Right.
Because every person's case is different. But as you know, sometimes if you do have a gluten sensitivity or gluten intolerance, by eating sourdough bread, you actually feel okay. And that's because the bread has already gone through that process of removing a lot of that gluten, the gluten issues that come with regular bread.
Right. And I know because I do have gut issues and I eat Jackie's bread every day. And it's delicious, besides amazing. And I just want to touch on the fact again that it's healthy.
It's made with very few ingredients. Mm-hmm. So the ingredients are super key because with store-bought bread, even if you're buying sourdough bread in a store, you're buying a bread that's got preservatives and other things in it to give it flavor, shelf life. If you've bought my bread before, you'll know that by the third or fourth day, it can be moldy because there's nothing in it to be a preservative.
So mine hasn't gotten moldy.
Good.
I think I have a system down to
Perfect.
how to preserve that bread, but it doesn't usually last more than that many days anyway because we've eaten it all by then. But
It's usually the case.
yeah, in regard to store-bought sour bread, just read the label. It's there.
Yes.
If it doesn't have 3 ingredients only,
Right. Yeah. So my original, which is my OG loaf of bread, is 3 ingredients. It's flour, salt, and water, and that's it. And that's super key when you want to eat clean and eat healthy, because you, like you just said, you look at the label. You go and pick up a loaf of bread from any major health food store, and you can look at the label and see that there's not 3 ingredients.
Right.
There's at least 5, 10, sometimes more than that. And that's, if you're trying to be healthy or have these intolerances, that's not gonna fly.
right. Absolutely not. So let's go back a little bit
Sure.
to when you first started.
Yeah.
At the time when you were you started baking initially because it was something fun to do with the family and challenge with your husband, but then you started baking more and you decided you wanted to turn this into a little business.
Mm-hmm.
But there was an issue because of, I think there was no cottage food law in
Right.
New Jersey.
Yes.
What is that? What is the cottage food law?
So having a cottage food permit is something that you have to apply for through the state of New Jersey. Every state now, thankfully, does have their own version of a cottage food law. New Jersey was the last state in the country to pass cottage food allowances. And so in order to get your cottage food license, you have to go through a process. You have to get a food safety permit, manager certificate. And so you have to take a class to do that. And the class, they give you different options. So you take your class, you take your test, and as long as you pass your test, then you can move forward. You also have to have the approval from your town and make sure that you are in a town that the zoning will allow for you to run a business from your home. There are towns in New Jersey where you can't do that. And so, right. And so you can have a cottage food license, but you can't bake from your home because your town won't allow it. We are fortunate here that I can do that. And then the other thing is you have to have a product that you can legally sell. And by that, I mean, you have to have something that is not temperature controlled. And there are certain ingredients that you can and cannot use. And so the state dictates what we can and can't use in our breads or baked goods in general. And so as long as you meet all of those qualifications, then you can apply for your cottage food permit. And if the state says, okay, this looks good, then you can then start a business.
And so, Jackie, how many loaves a week do you sell today?
So I currently sell anywhere between 50 and 70 loaves of bread a week.
Wow.
Depending on how much time I have, because at this point I kind of run my business just on my own life schedule. And so a week like this week, I will have close to 50 loaves of bread that I'm baking, but I'm taking it easy this week.
Well, that's one of the beauties of running your own business, because you are a mom of young children.
Yes.
And family first, right? That's what I always
Absolutely.
say. But your family gets to enjoy your bread too.
Yes.
And I can come to your house on any given day and smell the amazing aroma of bread baking, fresh bread.
Yes, there's always something going in my oven. One of my ovens, I have two.
Yes, she has a beautiful oven where she bakes all her bread. So Jackie, tell me, you mentioned social media. Mm-hmm. I know that your business has grown because of your interaction on social media and also by word of mouth. So where can people find you and how can they order from you?
So I post a menu every week. I try to do it on Thursdays. Sometimes it's not done until Friday mornings. But every week I post my menu on my social media, which is Jackie's Breads and Bakes. And that's on Instagram or Facebook.
Okay.
There is a link that is located on both pages, which you can click on at any time, and that will show you the menu for the week if I'm not sold out. So what happens is I'll put the menu up, and then I'll let my social media pages know, hey, guess what? Orders are open. And you can just click right in and place your order for the following week.
Yeah, I look for that story.
Yes.
I look for that story because as soon as you post that story, I know it goes pretty quickly.
It goes very quickly. Most of the time I'm sold out within 24 hours.
Wow.
Especially depending on what types of bread I have on my menu for the following week. But you just click right there and it will bring you to a kind of like an online shop, which will allow you to see what menu items are available for the following week. You place your order, and then I just make sure everything looks good on my end, and I approve it, and I see you the following week at pickup.
Yep, and it's pickup only, so I'm glad that you said
Yes.
that. No deliveries here. It's made with love by Jackie for you, and it's very local-based business, local customers.
Yes.
Unless you want to drive a long way to come pick up your bread, it is well worth it.
And I do have people that drive quite a distance and pick up multiple loaves at a time for that reason.
And that wraps up our first episode of Living the North Jersey Lifestyle. I hope today's show gave you the confidence to take the next step in your journey. Remember, being prepared is always your best asset. If you enjoyed our conversation today, please be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on future episodes. You can catch the full video version of the show on YouTube or listen on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And of course, stay tuned for next time where we'll explore more of our local real estate market, insider tips, and local insights. Thanks for joining me, and remember, real estate is everyone's business. See you soon.